Man, that makes me happy and sad at the same time because it's just such a classic Doom way to put things, and I'm gonna miss this style from him. Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to Brews and Reviews. It's Knowledge, and today I'm reviewing Czarface and MF Doom's Super What, and I am sipping on a Modus Operandi IPA that is from Ska Brewing Company in Durango, Colorado. It's an IPA coming in at 6.8%. Had to pick this one because of the comic book style lettering on there. It's very much in the style of Czarface and Doom. Let's get into it. Here is MF Doom's first posthumous release, and the lack of marketing around it really shows that Czarface's heart was in the right place. The dudes had some respect for their collaborator. They weren't just trying to make a quick check or gain some clout off of the man's death. Apparently this was finished last summer, so they could have released this in January, right at the time that Doom's listens were surging, but they rightly chose to give it some time and let everyone process Doom's death. In fact, let me let Esoteric speak for himself about the respect that he had for the villain. On Instagram, he said, "I speak for everyone involved when I say we were incredibly fortunate to have collaborated with Doom. He was one of a kind, never to be duplicated MC, producer, and visionary. We wish peace and healing to his family, friends, and everyone touched by the gifts he shared with the planet." All that being said, though, you do have to wonder if this was cut short by Doom's untimely passing, because this clocks in at just 26 minutes, which is nearly half the length of their last collaboration. Czarface itself is a collaboration group between Wu-Tang's Inspectah and underground favorites 7L and Esoteric. They've been very prolific, steadily releasing projects since their debut in 2013, and it seems to be a really good arrangement for all involved. Inspectah is getting beats from 7L that showcase his abilities a little bit better than anyone was giving him for his solo albums of late, and 7L and Esoteric get a little more notoriety and acclaim out of the arrangement. King and I, the title refers to the featured artist DMC, who of course did King of Rock with Run DMC, and he redoes some of that iconic track for this song. Esoteric's first verse on this is a reminder of why Doom and Czar collaborated so well, because it's full of wordplay, pop culture, and other media references, and developing that comic book style character. Everything we've come to know and love about Doom, including eccentric humor. Esoteric says, "The bass hits like bass hits, I'm Aaron Judge. First you're scary thugs, next you call five like Karen does. The feds, they get weird, protect your neck beard. My head is clear like Shakespeare when he wrote King Lear." Really like that neckbeard line because it is a callback to his partner in rhyme, Inspectah, of course playing off Wu-Tang's Protect Your Neck, the first single ever dropped by Wu-Tang. And guess who was the first verse on that? The iconic banging verse from Inspectah, which means he's the first person that most people heard from Wu-Tang. But the neckbeard is also just a humorous way of looking at life in the pandemic, because we all just stopped shaving, stopped edging those beards out and letting that neck beard grow. The track ends with a little outro that features Doom laughing, so we know the villain is on his way. Darwin's theory of people getting loose. I find it funny at the beginning of this, they're talking about the movie The Usual Suspects and using the famous quote, "There's no dope," to describe what they're currently finding in the music industry. And we got the first Deck appearance playing lead off with his smooth flow like he does best. Over the spacey keys and vocal sample, he says, "I pull strings like I'm playing the harp. I really live it. You just playing the part. Make way for the shark. I'm colder, strictly business as the soldier. Steady knocking like a witness of Jehovah." Then it goes right into Doom's first verse on the project, and it goes quick at only 8 bars. And this is a little bit what I'm afraid of with this project. We do have to be honest, and we know that Doom was not the most prolific at the end there. I'm thinking we might not get a ton of bars from him on this album, but still, his flow is intact. And it's nice to hear from him, even if we only get 8 bars on this song, because you never know, the last new Doom rhyme that you hear could be the last one ever. He says, "Metal mask, get harassed, say it's true, forget the past. Bring your liquor, get the flask, tap your cigarette to ash." And Esoteric makes up for the short Doom verse, going about 30 bars, complete with a beat switch in the middle of his verse. Mando Calrissian. The title is a mashup of 2 Star Wars characters, the Mandalorian and the character that was played by 2 actors in 2 different eras that were both the embodiment of cool. And I'm talking about Lando Calrissian, played by Billy D. Williams, and Donald Glover. Here we get classic Doom being self-deprecating and painting an ugly picture of his character. He says, "Sound brash, so imminent you can hear death. Alas, cheap cologne, cold swine, beer breath." Also, more great punchlines from Eso. He says, "Y'all use keys, I use a pen to make a van go." He uses his pen to make art like Van Gogh, while others use keys to make a van like a vehicle go. Doom unto others. Here we go. You know, with a title like this, we're gonna get at least a full 16 from the villain, and we do. He kicks a great rhyme scheme with multiple inner and end rhymes. Esoteric has more complex metaphors. He says, "Want czar, cut the check like stabbing the cat from Prague." I had to think about this one a little bit. The cat from Prague would indeed be a check. So if you're stabbing him, then you're cutting the check, as Prague is the capital of the Czech Republic. I like how Eso and Doom, to an extent, never stopped that mid-2000s style of puns and wordplay. Jason and the Argonauts. This is a standout track on this album, and it really does sound like the beat samples the Marquis Morning After, which was made famous by Inspectah Deck's Woo brother Jizza on I Got You Back. We get 16s from all 3 MCs on this, as well as a bonus 16 from Del the Funky Homo Sapien, who we don't hear a whole lot on guest appearances, but we just heard a great one on Crisis's album, The Hour of Crisis, from Del. And Esoteric says, "I'm hard to kill, so guard your grill until it's over with. Czarface and Doom been pro-masked before Corona hit." Now, aside from that humorous and timely line about their masks and Corona, he's also given a shout out to the track Off the Books by the Beatnuts. Not enough people talk about the Beatnuts anymore, but they were wild, and Off the Books was a great track. Introduced the world to Big Pun, by the way. Definitely check out Off the Books by the Beatnuts if you haven't heard it. I like how the beat adds some darker elements as we get to Doom's verse, and he continues with his non sequitur style. He says, "Fish taco, Casablanca, Morocco, stash similar to National Bank, Vato. Got dough, probably some snitch or a sapo. Sing at the top of the lungs like chicks in the top row." Man, that makes me happy and sad at the same time, because it's just such a classic Doom way to put things, and I'm gonna miss this style from him. Del's whole verse on this is low key about Trump. You really gotta listen to realize that's what he's talking about, but he says, "Point at the west, commencing with the speech. It's no handrail, very long, very steep. It may be slippery, but I mop accordingly. Falling for it, that's the last thing, most importantly." So he's referencing the famous incident of Trump sliding or falling down the ramp after his speech at West Point, and falling for it is probably referring both to his fall and people falling for his BS. Break in the action. I'm going to say this is probably Doom's best verse on the project, and the beat is very fitting, very reminiscent of something that Doom might do himself. Kind of reminds me of Vomit Spit. and he says, soul surviving, doom so conniving, never stop driving, they pussy like a hymen. The verse is complete with his off-kilter flow and sound effects that he likes to do with his voice, like when he goes zip. Deck gets in on a few metaphors too. He says, high price to pay like you shopped at Nordstrom. Deck narcoleptic, I black out often. This is Canon Now is an Esoteric solo track, and this is like a superhero version of 50 Cent's How to Rob, where he's talking about leaving Iron Man stark naked and a 5-finger discount on Thanos' stones and robbing Daredevil blind. Hilarious and unique subject matter that fits into the whole Czarface mythos. So Strange sees Doom and Eso both describing a supervillain. Doom continues to define his character all the way to the end. He says, paranormal weirdo, zero care hero, tinfoil hat to the back or side, De Niro. I love that after so long in the game, he was still outlining and telling us about this character, and I can definitely see tinfoil hat to the back or side, because he's a little bit crazy, but still hip-hop through and through. Young World, very much inspired by the Slick Rick song, Hey Young World. If you don't know Slick Rick, he is some of the best music that the 80s has to offer. This has a great up-tempo beat for Deck to kick the truth to the young black youth. He says, believe you're a queen, believe in your dream, believe you'll perceive, you'll achieve anything. Eso takes the opportunity to speak directly to his kid, and this inspirational, motivational to the youth type of theme might seem kind of out of place on this in an album full of comic book references and creating a superhero or a villainous persona. But when you realize that Eso wanted to take that opportunity to speak to his own kid, that makes us realize why it was included at the end of this album. This was actually an epic 26 minutes. It seemed much longer in a good way. I think that's mostly because they chose to pack in a lot of rhymes, going for verses and largely foregoing choruses to get it all in. I was worried about Doom not being featured prominently, but after a sparse start, he has several full verses by the end. They did the villain right, providing great beats that he may or may not have written to, but in the end, the mixing made it sound seamless. That being said, I hope this is not Doom's last project and the last new music that we hear from him. I would much rather have a full solo joint for that to be the end of his catalog. In Czarface's case, this album is a great entry in their discography, and they should go on to make a lot of great music for years to come. I'm gonna give this an 8 out of a 12 pack. Thank you for watching my review of Czarface and Doom's Super What. If you like this, go ahead and hit like now and hit me up in the comments. If you didn't like it, also let me know why in the comments. I drop hip hop and hops related content consistently, so subscribe to my channel now. And until I see you next time, keep buzzing.